Welcome back, everyone, to this Monster Energy DreamHack Studio broadcast of the Nordic Championship 2019 summer season. We just watched Ventus 2-0 Celestial in a very convincing fashion, and they're looking good, trying to claim that semi-final spot. But as we mentioned, it's all dependent on the successes of Falkn and the Final Tribe. Now, these top three teams, they've already faced each other. They're all 1-1 in a circular fashion against each other, so they are truly tied for first. And what a better way to close off tonight than to watch Falkn face off against a potential team here who could pull off the upset. That would mean Falkn's that would say goodbye to Falkn's semi-final dreams here. Now, MJ, they're standing in the way. Trouble, you're an expert on this team.
Oh, I just really enjoy the Finnish teams and how they play. Now, MJ, of course, have had their ups, they've had their downs, they're sitting on 3-3. So they're not necessarily the wowing team, but when that wow factor hits the team, you can see how everything falls in together. So overall, the team is very solid. So every role is doing very good at what they do, but mainly their emphasis is in that early game. And we've criticized before heavily how they're not able to translate that early game into a mid-game victory, or how they're not able to enable their champions into the early game to get the advantage to move on and close out the game in the mid-game. Now, of course, all of this weight falls onto Debu, which was showed us exceptional performances with Elise, with Lee Sin, Nidalee in the latest game we've seen versus FH. So I'm expecting to see a lot of good from this guy. Lee Sin recently with the new parts 915 has received a buff on the queue. Debu really favors the Lee Sin, so we could potentially see a pick right there. And of course, there is that element of carry laying onto VL's hands that every time he seems to slightly be getting ahead, getting one kill, getting some more assists than his opponent, he somehow turns on this carry machine and it all goes smoothly from there. Of course, Tatui and Merza are no strangers to this scene. They're very decent. Merza has had his ups and his downs, of course, in the scene. Some criticized Jay's picks, but with the latest performances, he's been an absolute beast in the mid lane, and I really want to see how he's going to match against Darkness.
Darkness is indeed a focal point for Falkn on the other side. Now, talking about this team, we watched them break Ventus's undefeated streak and continued on their own. Last time we watched them, I believe it was in round 5. And in that best of 3, they seem to have all of the answers to at least Ventus. And what was so remarkable about that series and about this team in particular, right, is that you can't pinpoint a singular member and say, oh, this guy is who you got to keep your eyes on, because they're all playing like such a well-oiled machine that they're sort of enabling each other in an intricate
way. I have one. I'm keeping my eye on.
Who's that?
Remember what we talked about? Skeden does good. Falkn does good.
It's true. So we do have to keep our eyes on Skeden. He did have a fantastic Olaf showing in that series. I think he got a triple kill at like minute 4 or something, and that smite steal on a Karthus in game 3 that secured them the series win. But at the same time, we can't forget Lannister's Yumi in game 1, Namax's Kai'Sa, who held them in the game number 2, and game 3 obviously showcased Kryze's spectacular AD Kennen, which he just popped off on, and Darkness unstoppable Vladimir. So these are all carry potential kind of players who can step up on the day when the game asks them for it, and they can take a step back, enable their teammates in a similar fashion. They looked like a fantastically working machine that can be adapted splendidly into whatever situation they may find themselves in. And in that series, while Ventus had some questionable moments, beating them indeed does cement Falkn as a top contender this season. However, in the same week, on Thursday, they faced off against the Final Tribe, their Swedish counterparts. Remember, Final Tribe being the seed number 1 here, and they lost 0-2. And that moment obviously led to the triple tie for first that we've got going today. So I think that MJ will be a fun opponent for Falkn to face. Obviously, their strength of schedule after this includes Copenhagen Flames and FH from Iceland, both matches which I feel like they should win. But it's on MJ to play upset, and at the same time, if they manage to pull the series off or pull it through, then they pull away from the middle of the standing. So there's a lot at stake for both of these teams here, and I expect them, Trouble, to go all out.
I do expect them to go all out as well. And to be honest with you, a 3-3 showing shows from MJ that they do have what it takes to pull out the wins, but then sometimes they get confused on how they execute their strategies. And I mean, it's pretty textbook how they want to play. They play for that early game. They play for that advantages that they get through Debo. They want the leasing. They want the Elise. They want to be able to dictate the pace of how the fights are going to go and how they're going to start. And they want that it to be them that starts every single fight so that they know how, they can actually move around that and kind of pinpoint where they need to sit, where they need to start, who needs to flank, and everything. So everything kind of needs to be textbook for them to actually pull a win. The difference between them, which is a middle seed team, from the top seed teams, is that these top seed teams act by default. So it might be some scenarios that are not practiced, but due to the team being together for so long, playing for so long, and all the experience from the big players, you get these reactions that otherwise you wouldn't have in a non-practiced environment. Of course, we have moved straight into picks and bans phase. Aatrox is going to get banned. It is something that Mirza and Tatui both play, and they swap around, but also Darkness and Cry. So that's kind of like a four-way flex. It could go to both teams.
It could, and there are several of these picks that we have to obviously keep our eyes on. Another one being, say, the Renekton or the Victor, and things like this. Perhaps even something like the Akali and Vladimir as well. So as the pick and ban phase continues on, I want to actually bring us back a little bit and say that Falkn being at the top of the table now is such a remarkable feat for them, since they were struggling at the end of the SEL. It even did lead to some roster swaps. So yeah, there are a couple of members here who have been together for a long time, but Trouble, honestly, the team is fairly, like, this iteration of the team is fairly recent, and the fact that they managed to translate this roster into the Nordics after a struggling SEL finals is quite remarkable. That there's the Karthus and Yumi, by the way, as well as the Renekton and Irelia. Yeah, Lee Sin is open, but as is Xayah.
VL comes first.
Is on MJ. VL comes first. You cannot deny this guy, Xayah, once it is open. Remember, Xayah still has that fantastic win rate that we identified only last week.
Yeah, and I want to go back to your point about Falkn. Sure, they've made it so far, but remember, they came here as the second seed because TFT destroyed them in the finals of the Swedish Esports League. Now they're coming into this. Ventus beats TFT, and they're like, okay, if Ventus has beaten TFT, if we beat Ventus, we're better than TFT. We're better than both, actually. Yeah, great, sure. They beat Ventus, who beat TFT, and then Ventus on the swap beat yet again Falkn. So it feels like TFT is the nemesis somehow of Ventus. And here, getting back to the draft phase, Rakan is going to be pulled away. You definitely don't want Eru, playing the lovers duo with VL in the bot lane. So they're going to drag it over to the other side, and they're going to put some wave clear right next to it because Namex has locked in the Severe.
Severe locked in, indeed. Ash, I don't think that's going to be even worth talking about, but I do adore the Severe pick, and picking Thresh into that, I guess, is fine. I guess you just want the safety for VL more than the hook and the catch potential of this champion. Obviously, with the Lantern, it provides you with a lot of versatility here. I do expect something safe or a staple jungler here. I mean, Rek'Sai would make a lot of sense. You've been looking at Lee Sin, but Rek'Sai seems to be the go-to here, at least. And that's an insta-lock Gragas. Now, why do they insta-lock Gragas? And is it a response to Rek'Sai?
It doesn't. I don't think it has to do with Rek'Sai. I think it has to do with getting play around the game. Remember, Falkn wins by providing his two crucial laners, which is Cries and Darkness, with a lot of potential for the counter gank, with a lot of potential for ganking himself, then it kind of unlocks these lanes into pressuring themselves. Remember Cries on the last game versus Ventus, it felt like he single-handedly gifted that win to Falkn because he was so far ahead with that cannon. That cannon, of course, is going to get out of the way from the side of MJ. They're like, okay, we saw what you can do with it. Let's not this time. So I do enjoy the fact that they're going to go for a fairly safe bot lane. And okay. So what really triggers me here is that we've again how is great playing against the Rakan. Everyone has a different idea though on how to play these. They prefer to lock into the Thresh and try to put the lockdown from this champion rather than having the Nautilus, which you could potentially enable VL onto even a 2v2, because one wrong move by Lannister into the mid lane, that could result in actually, VL grabbing a 2v2 kill down the bot lane. But remember that Lannister is one of these supports that loves roaming around with Skaden, that loves roaming towards darkness in the mid lane. So Namex doesn't necessarily play for lane. He just usually plays to stay alive. Now that's a flex pick on the Vladimir. It could end up in the hands of darkness or Cries. So this is another great potential flex pick where you don't actually show your opponent where the last pick is going to go, because you have to show your second to last pick, and usually that kind of gives an indication to the other team as in where this pick is going to go. Well, this time Falkn are doing it, and this is what we said about Celestial. They weren't doing what Falkn does right now. They were making a pick, but they weren't necessarily hiding where this pick was going when they were right side. Now me and Eru, we're not going to be friends anymore. We're not doing this.
Oh, he's doing it, but it's obviously just a hover here to tease trouble a little bit. The Silas lock-in is, however, very real. The Gangplank, though, going up against potentially the Vladimir. I'm not quite sure how that one's going to play out. Obviously, Falkn do have a flex pick top mid to still to be picked. Obviously, Kiana's still up. If you want to go for something like that, there's obviously the potential for a ranged top, or if you want to go super spicy here, Darkness is not a. He doesn't stray away from the melee AD mid laners, and there
oh my god, he locked it in.
He actually goes for Zed, and that's going to be Zed versus the Silas or the Gangplank. I would adore if it's a Zed versus Gangplank matchup, because the intricacies there are just too much to even
I don't think
to even take all into account. But yeah, most likely a Gangplank top. So how is Silas versus Zed? Just gotta ask.
I mean, to be honest with you, I have a feeling that Silas is so much better than the Zed in the mid lane. Sure, you get a little bit of poke with the assassin in terms of Zed, but then you've got the root, you've got the shield doesn't really count because you're shielding against AP on the Silas, but you get so much health back from the trades that Zed can't do himself. And then to dodge the death mark, you can steal the death mark and use it yourself. So there's so many ways you can actually outplay with the Silas in the mid lane, as long, of course, as you have the deathmark for yourself as well, because it's really when you're not in the jungle and you can't roam from lane to lane to lane to kind of like casually steal ultimates away and use them for yourself, it becomes a little bit harder because there's that gap of time where you can't steal the same ultimate again, and then you don't really have an ultimate. This is where the Zed is going to pressure you to the maximum, and adding a Gragas into the equation makes it so much harder for you to try to pressure a lane forward. Now, what Zed wants to do is pressure the lane and start roaming, start to get advantages on different lanes, go down there, get Namex probably a kill onto the Severe, get him snowballing quickly. Lannister wants to be roaming towards, darkness, get him a kill, snowball him. So it feels like the whole Falkn composition right here is so well constructed, trying to snowball all members by getting the push in. Now, that's a different story because you could put it depends where the junglers will start, because yes, the Gangplank could pressure in the Vladimir, but then you need the pressure of your jungle for you to do that. So in order for you to pressure top lane, you need to make sure that the Rek'Sai is going to be heading towards your top lane first, and he's not going to be playing on the other side of the map, because then you are susceptible to getting ganked by Skedden on that Gragas. So all in all, I feel it's a very let's farm heavy game, and we're gonna see a lot of brawls on objectives.
That's a nice conclusion there, Trouble. So with all of these things into consideration, who do you think has this game pre-10 and after 10 minutes? Which team do you think is favored at both of these marks?
It depends. Both the junglers are so strong right now, especially because with the Gragas, you want to have strong lanes at the start because you want to clear quickly, get that level 3, go back, buy boots, enable your Predator instantly, and then get back into a lane and try to pull a Summoner where you can repeat gank. Now, guess what? Rek'Sai wants to do the exact same thing with the difference that Hail of Blades Rek'Sai, which is not in the case, wants to actually 1v1 you. So here, you're going for the Conqueror, if I'm not wrong, which Mirza is running as well. So you can see how these guys want to be taking these duels in lanes. So I feel like I can't tell you which one's going to be stronger at the start because, again, it depends where the junglers are going to start and where they're going to end. For example, VL and Eru can pressure equally as fast as Namex and Lannister in the bot lane. I feel like mid lane is even, and also top lane is even push-wise. So you will see which lanes are going to start pressuring by the route of the jungler.
And here we have it. Both junglers do intend to start on that red buff, and we're just going to have to keep our eyes on what type of clear they are looking for here. Obviously, Debu gets that assisted pull by his bot lane, as well as Kryze assisting the Gragas here coming in from Hweden. And it telegraphs a little bit to the other jungler where they start. You can fake out or do fake pulls kind of, but it doesn't seem like
yeah, they're both gonna go for the full clear in this case, which is why you hear pressure in the lane. Skaden is all the way to the other side, so until down there, look how much more passive they're playing. They're not going to pressure the wave. They're going to let VL and Eru pressure in their wave themselves because their jungler is the one playing towards the bot side. And you can see instantly the same, for top lane, although Tatui is pressuring his lane in as well because he knows that Skaden is going to need that level 3 to go back and get his Predator, and he doesn't have it yet. So for now, he can't pressure the Vladimir early into the game that he still can because Vladimir is like very weak into the early phase, and as Gangplank you still have a lot more pressure and wave clear for yourself. So far it's great stuff by MJ. You see that mid lane is sitting dead even right now, and actually Debu is not gonna back. He's gonna go for a full clear without having backed, and we might be seeing a potential gank in the mid lane by Skaden.
Hweden's looking for it. Mirza, is he going to overstep? He is. Dashes in. He has his flash forced by Mirza and dashes straight back in again. You have to ask yourself, what are you doing? Mirza, meanwhile, Darkness on the wayside does not get the auto attack. Crucially, so many misplays coming in from both sides. But you gotta question the decision to re-engage with the hook there by Mirza was very strange. But honestly, Trouble, he forced 3 summoners by doing that.
Exactly. I mean, it worked. He pulled out both flashes from Falkn, from Falcon's mid laner and jungler, which means now that flash body slam does not exist in the game, so he can play much freely. You can actually predict it. So until that flash is back up, or at least he gets his ultimate, then Skaden is not really, a threat for them in the game. So they're gonna start pushing the lanes more now because Debu having his flash up is much more useful at this point, and they need to be careful on which lanes they're pressuring. Sure, it was maybe a misstep by Mirza, but at least it was calculated enough so that he does not die there.
Yeah, calculated enough, yeah, sure, but if Darkness hadn't whiffed his final auto attack there, I think he cancelled it because he wants to get out of the turret as quickly as possible, then it would have been a different story. However, Hweden comes for the gank down in the bot side, Eru forced to flash away, and VL is surely not going to land any roots whatsoever, but hey, Hweden still around. This time chooses to force some summers bot side, and as he has those the boots later on with the Predator, as you said, with all of these flashes forced, he's going to have so many options to choose from.
So many options, but yet still no flash body slam, which is a huge threat in the kit of this champion because it's just so unpredictable. You need to pre-flash before he even has the chance to press, his E and then flash himself. So this sort of combination right there, we've seen in a lot of competitive play that he pulls a lot of flashes before Gragas even does anything. He shows presence in lane, you get super scared of that combo that could potentially be pulled at any minute you see the Gragas, and then you have to flash away out of fear that you could potentially be going down. So it's not just about getting the kill and having that gank potential, but it's also putting the fear into the laners. Darkness coming in clutch.
True to his name, gets the 1v1 first blood on the Zed using those dark shadows. Maza, he didn't see it coming. The burst is too real, and he obviously didn't have flash or anything available to him. So great pickup there by the Falkn mid lane.
Mirza is doing this thing over and over again, which really wants to be playing aggressive, but he doesn't play to his numbers. So right there, your HP pool is not looking peachy. Darkness, of course, is going to be running Thunderlords onto the AD Assassin, lands every single spell onto Meza. I think Meza was like 20 to 25% HP, so it's nothing to be playing around against a Zed. And you know what happens when Darkness starts getting ahead on these Assassins? He kind of knows how to snowball them. And here comes the question again with the Assassins. The second that one of them leaves the lane, he doesn't actually have to go anywhere. He just has to hide in Fog of War. Every single one of the other lanes have to pull behind, because that is a Zed that has an advantage right now. He has the death mark, so he could potentially be roaming to any lane he wants, pressuring even harder.
The map, the world is his oyster as we transition later on, and the answer to the question who has the pre-10 advantage here seems to be at least one man. It's going to be Darkness. However, the gold lead, or it's just straight up even. The lead doesn't exist. There's a slight one in the mid lane, there's a slight one in the jungle, and crucially, as you pointed out, Debu's flash is still up. He has the flash and borrow available to him, but he's not being too proactive with it though. He's instead going to face off against Hweden. However, Hweden disengages, says, nope, I don't want to try this. Yeah, the level 5 against level 6 with that Rek'Sai ultimate. Assassination is too much of a threat.
Oh, they got him!
Instead, they are going to go on Hweden later on, and there it is. The Gank ultimate comes in for the assist, and a crucial, clutch, simple steal there by Maza.
Yes!
Kills off Darkness. Oh, sorry, Hweden.
Tatooine gets that assisting. Let's go. He gets that assist money for himself. But of course, crucial kill for Meza, much needed. And you can see right there, excellent move by Debu. He instantly ultis Skedden. So when he tries to body slam away, that Rek'Sai actually follows him all the way through the entire width of the river. Now Mirza, you can see how much more confidently he can play, because he does have the death mark to dodge any damage coming in from Darkness. So they're grabbing the Ocean Drake, which will give them so much more sustain onto the lanes, which is something they need, because there's a lot of farming lanes. You know, VL and Eru are a farming lane. Tatooine in the top lane, oh boy, he's a farming lane against them, the Vladimir as well. And it's giving a little bit more of advantage to Mirza, trying to sustain all the pull coming in from Darkness. So it's a great Drake overall to have. I mean, an Infernally would have been better, obviously, but an Ocean Drake is great for them to have at this point. And you can see, it is crazy how MJ have swapped their playstyle. So they're still playing with their signature champions, but you would have seen Debu being everywhere by now. And they're just respecting Falkn so much. But yet, the moves that they're taking are so calculated. It's great to see.
Yeah, they're respecting them, but at the same time, Debu did have that flash advantage for a very long time and didn't manage to get much off of it. So perhaps the respect is a little bit too much here coming in. But what do I know? Meanwhile, on the top side, Darkness has arrived. Tatui gets death marked and body slammed straight to the face. We've got 3 different people tanking turret shots, but who even cares? It's going to be Tatui who dies at the hands of Hweden.
Maybe using your flash there was overzealous, potentially. Oh boy, they waited for that teleport back.
Debu is here. There's the pull. Flash body slam. Hweden. Red buff is ticking, by the way. Maza is still on to Hweden, but there's the ultimate from Debu. Debu is the one who kills off Kryze, not the other way around. Maza still, he snipes him with a double kill. What a prey seeker right there. Debu coming in clutch. We just criticized a little bit of not using your advantage, but the calm, the calculated, the responsive pays off for this man, and it pays off for MJ.
That is an entire different team we're seeing so here. Debu, with the overzealous play so far that we've seen in this tournament, pushing way too far his advantages, ending up in a disadvantage. Here he's playing so calculated. The macro of this team is impeccable so far. They're waiting. They know Darkness is TPing back into the base. They waited until he left the equation so they can try and pull the 2v2. And even though Debu gets deadly low, he manages to grab both the kills out of the mouth of Meza. So great stuff coming in. OMJ.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nice
trouble in the bot lane.
Yeah, nice stopwatch. Disengages all of that damage, but Lannister did not even deal any damage himself, obviously, so he didn't tank that turret shot. But nicely done. Does not have that defensive tool. However, I mean, well, Eru was just out roaming, going about his business, laying down some nice defensive wards, but was it worth it for your ADC to have his stopwatch forced? I don't know, Trouble.
I would say no. I would potentially like to see VL use ultimate there instead of the stopwatch, because you could potentially lock someone underneath the tower there and then have the reply with Eru coming in. I feel it was most likely like a panic stopwatch, as in, okay, I don't want to die right here because we have too much advantage on the map. We can't throw it away. So nevertheless, staying alive is a key for VL. So I don't think it matters that he used his stopwatch so far, because there's not going to be a lot of fights down there. The next one is going to be a Cloud Drake, so I'm not expecting a 5v5 kind of fight happening that early into the game. So it's okay for now. Yes, he blew the stopwatch, but he can actually keep on pressuring the lane and starting to get these items rolling in.
And speaking of items, I want to make a little bit of a point here in the mid lane. When you speak about Deathmark, right? It deals a percentage of all the damage dealt to you, or damage you dealt in the past 3 seconds to the target, right? But it's physical damage. And Zed's the one stacking lethality, Mirza is not. So I feel like in a 1v1 between these two, it's almost always going to be Darkness favored here until Mirza can start roaming around.
Not necessarily, because I feel like Mirza is going to be using the Deathmark to dodge the Deathmark damage that is going to come out of Darkness. Oh, we have a fight!
Oh man, there comes the Rift Herald fight. The engage coming in from Lannister. Darkness damage is huge in response, as is Namix. Deathmark finally used there onto Mirza. Mirza's running for his life. The Blood ult already used. Double kill for Darkness. And as it was looking good for MJ, as Debu was being proactive, Darkness and the entirety of Falkn say no. We will stop you dead in your tracks and win a, what was it, a 3 for 1 there? Only Huidan dying. Beautiful stuff.
I mean, these are the MJ tendencies coming in at this point. The ones where you're like a couple of members down, but then you're still gonna pressure your advantage. VL and Eru were nowhere near, and Namex and Lannister were there in a heartbeat because Namex had the teleport to be able to use that. So you're getting the man's advantage there. I'm pretty sure you had to pull back. Tatooine was way too far in to try to get out of there. He had no flash available, so they managed to grab 3 kills for themselves, and crucially, 3 kills are onto Darkness right now.
Yeah, this man's looking good here in the mid side. He's off a grand total of 600 gold over his opponent, and that is a goal lead that means a lot here. As in general, obviously with the gangplank in the other side, and with the CS lead in the jungle, you know, you got to balance it out a little bit. But there is that Air Dragon for MJ. You said it wouldn't be too much of a point of contention, and it straight up wasn't. Debu claims it despite being knocked back over the wall as he was dashing or using his tunnel to get into that one. So there you go. A little bit of a clutch objective here coming in for Debu, but I don't know how much that's going to matter at this stage, Trouble, since the lanes will be probably pretty stagnant, apart from the junglers.
True, and I'm just liking the vision that Falkn are setting up towards the top quadrant of Debu's jungle. They want to know where Debu is at all times, and we're most likely going to be having a 3v3 happening. Mirza, though, has started roaming much faster, and Darkness is all the way back to base. That's why you see Falkn are kind of like backing off, because they know there's the potential of the mid laner roaming while their mid laner is back in base. And you saw what happened when MJ tried to contest that Rift Herald while they didn't have man's advantage. Falkn playing this game much more clever in this instance, and they know they don't have the man advantage, so they are pulling back. Shelly, though, has been started once again.
Yeah, speaking of Rift Herald, Shelly wasn't he started by Dibu, who hadn't spotted with the cask. Our beautiful ground entrance there coming in from Namix forces the TP out of Tatui. Meanwhile on the sideline, Hueden and Darkness are pretty much 1v3. Here comes Kreis. He's in onto 2, I believe, and Darkness is just laying down so much damage. Triple kill for him. Kreis will surely be able to finish off Eru with that empowered Q. Lannister is in a 1 versus 1 with Tatui. Here comes Namix. They can't tank too many turret shots though, so I don't believe they're gonna go for it. Are they really? Flash forward?
Flash?
Oh no,
What?
Namix, the straight drive-by int. Tatui claims the kill. And you gotta ask yourself, Namix and Lannister, yeah, you want that early game ace, but come on, that's not worth it.
Again, these overzealous coming in from Falkn, where they're like, we almost got the ace, we're gonna force it in the end. And you don't really have to, because you just gave the shutdown to the Gangplank, who wants that Trinity Force as soon as possible. He will potentially go back and he will have managed to complete the Trinity Force, and you're also giving him a lot of pressure up the top lane trying to get that tower. But on the other hand, Dibu Shu, he secured Shelly, but then in the end, nobody picked it up because they were too busy fighting. I would have rather them trying to pick up the Rift Herald and use it, because that fight was already lost. Falkn had again more members coming in clads at the correct time. Darkness has the time of his life in this fight, because everybody from MJ starts actually spreading, which is amazing if you're playing an assassin in the caliber of Zed. He wants everybody to be split so you can actually get pinned down and damaged. So Darkness having the time of his life on one of his favorite roles, which is assassin, 6, 1 and 2, Duskblade, Ghostblade, all in there.
He's set for the game, honestly, with all of this lethality, all of this armor penetration coming in, and he will be able to 1v1 Merza quite handedly, despite Merza having that tool of dodging the Deathmark damage with Deathmark. I think just the raw damage coming in from Darkness at this point will be a little bit much to handle. We saw a little bit of engage mid side, but it didn't really account for anything. Instead, it will be a Dibu trying to pressure this top for that first turret of the game at 17 minutes. Is going to be Tatui going for it, and here comes that damage exactly. Deathmark, there it is. He assassinates Merza where he stands, gets absolutely gobstomped. Merza, he can't even lift a finger in time to say, please.
Oh,
no.
error?
Meanwhile, there is the hook coming in onto Lannister, but Lannister also gets picked up by Dibu, but he flashes away. Now Dibu is in between a rock and hard place. The hook onto Gragas Hueden gets the explosive cast before he falls. But that is a 1-for-1, all things considered, and Lannister, he didn't die.
That escape from Lannister coming in clutch. Skaden, though, ends up losing his life. The flanks are coming in from both Kreis and Darkness, which Darkness's Deathmark is up yet again. That cooldown is way too low.
They're going for it. Oh,
wait a minute!
Yeah, Deathmark is up. Speaking of which, Featherstorm, it's the 700 gold shutdown going over to Eru. And Tatui overcommits here a little bit, I should say. Kreis is coming in the proto belt, but who's overcommitting really? It's Kreis onto Voodoo now. Hook lands onto Namix. Eru's popping off. Watch this, man. There's the death mark onto Kreis, but Kreis obviously on that Vlad with the pool will be able to dodge out on the proc. Merza should be able to finish him off, however, and there it is. It's Dibu who picks up the kill right in time for the Ocean Dragon spawn, and all my days, I feel like everyone just straight up died, but Lannister still 0 deaths.
I wanna cry over how beastly Eru is in this game with Thresh. He gets the most amazing hooks where they count. He literally had cries into his face, and he gets the most clutch hook on the member that matters, which was Namek sitting in that side bush into the mid lane. MVP from the side of MJ would definitely have to be Eru in this one. He's the one keeping them in the game with super clutch hooks where it counts, and he's the one that actually starts all these engages and turns the fights around. Oh my god, Eru is just playing out of his mind this game.
He's stepping up when it matters, for sure. These hooks are absolutely on point. Now has some nice items on his name as well, empowering his ADC as if there's no tomorrow. He wants VL to be as powerful as humanly possible. But if the team can't make it, then you know what? He's just going to kill off people by his own. Picked up 2 shutdowns in that fight, and will be very happy with that gold amount. Meanwhile, Mirza is in between Hueden and Darkness. There is the explosive cast coming in, but explosive cast is hijacked, but it's not enough to disengage because Darkness damage is just way too real trouble. This man is out of control. However, it spawns a response by MJ on the other side of the map. Falkn, they're racing towards it.
Oh, they're collapsing.
And they get there in time. They're instead choosing to collapse onto Kryze. They're baiting out the kills instead of actually going for the Baron. Which Kryze is damage. DB has to run away. However, Tatui with that poly should be able to kill him off. Flash forward, auto attack. Yep, that's it. Kryze is no more, but it's Falkn who's getting the objectives. The mid lane turret is down, and Darkness is down on the bot side.
Wait, it's a cross-map play on a cross-map play reply. So you kind of commit 2 members, your jungler and your mid laner, down there to kill Mirza, and MJ's like, fine, you want to kill our mid laner, we're gonna pull a Baron. Where they can't because everyone is collapsing. They try to kill Kryze, but then Falkn replies with 2 towers on their own, and tier 2 in the bot lane, and crucially the tier 1 in the mid lane, which is gonna give them so much more vision into this game, splitting the map wide open. And the pressure starts happening right now because sure, there might be 1,500 gold ahead, but MJ are definitely not playing like it. It feels like Mirza is playing he's back into the questionable decision-making role that we found him into his first and second Jace plays in this tournament, and the ones that we very heavily criticized. And it feels like he's falling back to the same mistakes, but he needs to bounce back if MJ want to pull an upset here against Falkn.
Yeah, we gotta start to identify and give criticism where it's due. Mirza coming in as a little bit of a weak link of this team, and in that Silas versus Zed matchup, all eyes were on them. In the past, yeah, he's been stuck on these kind of wave clearing defensive champions, or at least they've been used that way. But this game, the jungle and mid lane duos were where it was at. And the fact that Debo and Mirza do not manage to pull anything off, with Darkness instead snowballing out of control, sort of tells you the entire story here about how the teams match up in the different lanes and mid lane in particular. Now, what do they even do against Darkness's Zed? Yeah, sure, Zed falls off eventually, but it's 3,000 gold ahead of Mirza alone. And even the Gangplank, he's up 2,500 gold off of Tatui as well, and Tatui is running that poly farming. Like, what did he do versus Darkness? Who did he even send?
At this point, you either double up onto the Zed, which they're trying to do now, but he has the backup of Skedden while he's getting yet another tower. So you either have to completely ignore him and try to pull a cross-map play because Darkness does not have TP, but he's playing on the correct side because this is the side of the Baron. So even if they try to pull up a cross-map play, which would potentially be the Baron right here, it doesn't matter because Darkness is right there. They have closed in though, but MJ has been pinned yet again.
Lannister with the quickness as well as the ground entrance knocks up Eru. He says, you know what? You've been picking off my teammates for far too long. Time to end your business. And Lannister stops him dead in his track. It's now a 5 versus 4 situation here, coming in for Falkn. And we were wondering what MJ was supposed to do against Darkness, but you know what? What are they going to do against the entirety of the rest of Falkn here? Because everyone's just straight up a menace now. Kry's even bullying out Tatui. What's going on here?
I feel it's pretty even down there because Tatui does have the Sterak's as well, and there's no Hourglass for Kryze. Tatui also has the Sustain, so does Kryze. So I feel it's like a kind of a noodle fight back and forth where they're both damaging each other, and then they're both sustaining the damage. So it's like, haha, I can heal, but then the other guy's like, haha, I can heal. So it's pretty much, like I said, a noodle fight, but remember that Kryze is 0-3, but he's still gonna be relevant, and at the moment, Tatui is sitting on already 2 kills, but he doesn't have any impact because he has to sit on a side lane until Kryze TP's in, so he can TP in as well. So it's kind of like the reactive play we were talking about from Celestial Gaming is happening here from MJ, and every time they're trying to be proactive, they're getting shut down by better plays from Falkn because they don't have enough vision put into their jungle. So right now here, you see that Falkn took the time that the MJ took to take the dragon so they can put down vision around the Baron area and they can pick up these fights. Mind you, they picked up the 350 gold shutdown from Eru onto Namex as well. So that's a 2-item Severe right now with Static Shift and the Essence River going on to an Infinity Edge. When this is completed, Namex is going to be a real deal in the game.
Love me some noodles, Trouble Inc. But yeah, it's a very real fact that the shutdown went over there. The fact that Eru's had that one on himself was a little bit of a ticking time bomb, as obviously eventually he's most likely going to die off there. And the crossmap was also real because they cleared out vision on the Baron, and that leads them to be able to make these kind of engages. But it is going to be Eru who is counter engaged upon, has to flash away, and Falkn, they force some very real summoners here. Both Eru and Dibu have to flash away, and they now are in control. However, MJ have their eyes set on mid lane, it seems, but no, they want to fish for something.
And the thing here is, when both of the teams have a lot of squishy members, the thing that matters in a team fight is how much done you. With just Lannister alone and the cast from Skedden, there's a lot of lockdown seconds that Darkness and Namex and everyone else from Falkn can put the pain down. We have a fight.
Yeah, speaking of Darkness...
Oh my
God! The Burst is the name of the game for Darkness. What the hell was that? Darkness just straight up bops Dibu, who, yeah, he doesn't have that much HP, but come on.
That's a smite down.
Straight up. Yeah, that's smite crucially also, and that means Baron perhaps for Falkn, but the Cannon Barrage is enough to sway them for now, as well as the MJ members stepping up and saying, you know what, you're not going to get this one for free. And instead, they're the ones who have their eyes set on it. Actually, with everyone recalling from Falkn, there is an opening for MJ here. Are they going to go for it? Nah, they're just going to clear out some vision and a little bit of a reset trouble.
I mean, you can't really do anything else. Sure, their smite on the side of MJ is down, but you don't really want to force yourself in a situation where you get pinched into the pit and you take damage from the Baron, but then you don't really have any turnaround potential either because everything else has been used to take Dibu down. So it's just pretty much a rinse and repeat kind of strategy where you want to do this again, but then instead of just killing Dibu, like grab 1 or 2 members more. Look at what they're doing this time. They've got both Darkness and Cries on the side lane, which means that if MJ pull the trigger right now, only one of the two will be able to TP in, and Dibu has seen that, and he's going in.
He's going in, but a simple belly bop by Huiren will disengage that attempt.
Oh,
that's that can only run at you. It's not a very scary Rek'Sai, but however, you know who is scary? It's Darkness on this Zed, as well as assisted by Cries' Vladimir. They 2 versus 1, get that quick 1-2 kill, but MJ will be able to reply with the Baron start. How much will they lose, however, before Falkn choose
I don't think that's worth.
Hook lands onto Nanex though. Beautiful CC chain, but Lannis is working overtime trying to commit and peel for his ADC. They're winning the fight. 3 versus 5 seemingly. What is this? What an amazing fight coming in from Falkn. Yeah, Darkness is cleaning up the towers on.
They're gonna finish it here.
But what? What a showing coming from Falkn. They will take game number 1 versus MJ on the day. Despite it looking grim early on, they do have their semi-final spot intact for now.
Whoa, the indecision right there from MJ, and we talked about it. Yes, they had a lot of damage from the side of MJ, but absolutely no hard engage. That hook landing, sure, Eru had a lot of amazing, incredible on members that mattered, but they didn't have the hard engage that Lannister had, and you saw how hard it was for Dibu trying to force something in with that Rek'Sai, but he just couldn't quite reach anyone to force that hard engage, and this is really where it hurt MJ, because they were trying for the cross map plays, but then they didn't have the engage to try and force them. So in the end, it was an indecisiveness of, okay, let's do Baron, but then they didn't want to do Baron because the other guys were taking Inhibitor, so then they were like, okay, let's turn instead, but then even as 3 members it seemed like Falkn was much stronger than MJ, and they were able to pull this one off. Another great showing from the top seed team, and I would just like to see MJ with something that they can pull the fights themselves. Again, I don't know. Like, I can justify why Arrow went for the Thresh instead of the Nautilus, but I feel like overall, team wise, a Nautilus would have been more well rounded.
Yeah, Nautilus would have been quite nice there. The perhaps the over prioritization of their ADC comes back to bite them a little bit in the dust. Not securing these contested picks too much here, and instead giving way too much over to Falkn, or giving them way too much freedom, I should say. At the same time, you have to criticize MJ a little bit, Trouble, of how they utilized their tools, right? We saw several cannon barrages being used quite questionably. It was a little bit of an overkill the first time it was used. I believe it was close to mid. As well as Debu with his flash advantage for the longest time, not really punishing anyone. Yeah, there was this top lane dive that secured 2 kills, but that was way late. So do you think you did actually just mention that MJ need to be more proactive? So how did they switch up in the jungle position, I should say?
I'd say if the listen is up, just go for it. We've seen incredible things happening from Debu when he plays at. Sure, we've seen him fall behind as well, but he needs to get rolling. And this was why I said MJ looked like a whole different team, because Debu, with that early game pick, he would have tried so many different ways of trying to get his team ahead, even though some would fail, some would be all right. But he would have tried so much more than he did. And you saw that at the start, they were playing so weighted that it ended up, the scale started for like going down towards the side of Falkn, because they are the better late game team, and we talked about this. Up to 30 minutes, you need to have established a great advantage and lead and close it down if you are MJ.
Unfortunately for them, they did not manage to do that, and instead it all slipped away, despite the goal lead being in favor of them for the majority of this game. And in a sub 30-minute victory, Falcons strike first. Or will they claim a 2-0, or will we go to game number 3? Find out after these ads.